Do you have an emergency fund? When markets tank, should you use it and save yourself thousands? Let's take a look. Hi, I'm Janet. I'm a business and operations specialist. I've been deep diving retirement for the last 5 years in the hope to get the best retirement I possibly can. And now I'm sharing that with you so that you can do the same. If you have an investment portfolio and you are already taking money from it, or perhaps you are looking to take money from it later, then this video is for you. Everybody on social media seems to say different things about this subject. Should I use an emergency fund when the markets go down? Or can I just keep taking the money out of my portfolio? And at the end of the day, it won't really make much difference. Now, actually, I have no idea. I'm a nervous investor, so I decided to crunch the numbers and find out. Come and have a look what I found.
Now, I've created 4 people. Anna has 100,000 invested and the rest have 1 million. All need a 4% return of the present portfolio value. I've calculated over 11 years for Anna, Sarah and Nellie using historical data from the S&P 500 index, specifically the 2008 crash. I then decided to use less dramatic data and added fuzzy future with sort of made up data. Now let's look at Anna in detail and we'll just fly through the rest. Now each person has 2 tables, one without an emergency fund and one with. Let's focus on the without table first. Now this shows the amount invested in the portfolio as well as the annual withdrawal amount for Anna. Now to test this table logic, I started with a 4 and 8% return rate before using the historical data of the 2008 market crash. So simply 100,000 capital grows by 4%. After taking away 4,000 at the end of the year, we are left with 100,000 again. This then starts year 2. In the second year, there is an 8% return, raising the portfolio value to 108,000, less the 4,000 withdrawal, and Anna is left with the 104,000, which then starts off year 3. And so it goes on and on and on and on. At the end of year 11, Anna has taken out 44,000 and her portfolio value has increased to 104,000. Now, what if she had used an emergency fund? Here we have the same parameters, except that she has a 20,000 emergency fund, perhaps a little generous to be honest. And here there are 2 main differences. The red coloured years indicates that she's used her emergency fund to pay for her 4,000 withdrawal, and there is a new column which shows when she paid back the emergency fund from the investment portfolio all the way back up to the 20,000. Now it's really important to note here that Anna waited until the portfolio value was close to the original 100,000 before she started using it again, i.e. she used the perfect emergency fund scenario. Now at the end of year 11, Anna has taken 44,000 and her portfolio is now valued at 119,000. Now I was surprised about this. So with her emergency fund, her portfolio grew by over 14,000. That's 3 extra years of income for her, and her emergency fund was fully repaid. Now let's briefly look at the other people, understanding that their calculation principles are the same. Sarah has more invested and also has a rather generous emergency fund of 200,000. And in the perfect world, without the emergency fund, her value increased by 42,000. But with the emergency fund, her portfolio value increased by 190,000. So Sarah's managed to increase her portfolio by a whopping 147,000 over 11 years, just by using an emergency fund that she's fully repaid. Let's look at Nellie. Now Nellie has the same investments and parameters as Sarah. There are only 2 differences, and that's her emergency fund amount is lower, 100,000 instead of the 200,000, and the way in which she has used and repaid her emergency fund. She's a little bit more of a nervous investor, and therefore she uses her portfolio sooner in order to pay for her 40,000 and also pays back faster. Now, the impact is that it halves the increase in portfolio value compared to Sarah. So with her emergency fund, Nellie has increased her portfolio by 64,000 compared to if she did not have an emergency fund. Now, I'm starting to get worried that the crash of minus 38% would skew these results. So I created Fuzzy Future with less dramatic market growth return rates. I also gave Fuzzy Future the smaller emergency fund of 100,000, which I thought was more realistic. Looking at Fuzzy's results, although the amount is still less, using an emergency fund, the portfolio value still managed to increase by an amazing 39,000. That's 1 year's worth of withdrawals. So looking at the main results, when using an emergency fund, every single person made more money. Anna and Sarah created an extra 3+ years worth of income. Nellie, imitating probably a more realistic investor, still did really well. And Fuzzy shows that emergency funds can work well even with smaller downturns. Really surprising results.
Emergency funds can make a big difference to your investment portfolio over, say, 10 years if you use them correctly. So is it worth it having an emergency fund? Hey, everything we looked at, it was a clear yes. Now, does that mean that I would actually do that? Personally, no. I'm a bit of a scaredy cat with things, and I would be very nervous that I wouldn't have enough money if there was a true emergency. So how would I use my emergency fund in a similar situation? I think there's two things that I would do instead. I would still have an emergency fund, but I would, one, cut my expenses down as much as possible so that I could minimize my withdrawal from the emergency fund or from my portfolio. And number two is I would only take out money from the emergency fund for 2 years, assuming I've got enough money in there for 2 years, because I would like to keep the emergency fund for emergencies. So my final thoughts on this are, as much as this has increased my portfolio, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, and I hope you won't too. And of course, hit the like button if you like this video, and of course, subscribe for more. Bye.